An impossible cosmic monster, so vast it defies belief, is sending a message across billions of light-years that has already arrived on Earth, and what it reveals will fundamentally challenge our understanding of the universe. TON 618 should not exist. Roughly 4 billion light-years from where you are sitting, there is a gaping maw in space, a literal region where matter falls inward, never to return. It is the largest black hole humanity has ever confirmed, an entity 66 billion times the mass of our Sun, ancient enough to have formed when our universe was still in its infancy. And at this very moment, something from TON 618 is traveling toward Earth, something that has been on its way for more than 10 billion years, something that, in a very real way, has already arrived. Whether that should worry you is what the rest of this video will explore, but not yet. Because to understand what is happening right now between that ancient monster and this planet, you first need to understand what TON 618 actually is. But before we delve deeper into this cosmic enigma, let's first clarify what a black hole truly is, as the popular perception often misses the mark. Black holes do not reach across space and actively pull things in. They are not cosmic vacuum cleaners. If our Sun were instantly replaced by a black hole of its exact same mass, Earth's orbit would not change. The planets would maintain their orbits. We would all freeze to death in the dark, yes, but gravitationally, nothing would change. A black hole is simply a region where an enormous mass has been packed into an incredibly tiny space. Get too close to its center, and the gravitational pull becomes so strong that even light can no longer escape. The boundary where light loses that struggle is known as the event horizon. Imagine it less as a solid wall and more as an irreversible one-way door. Cross it, and the universe behind you ceases to exist as a future you can ever return to. Most black holes fall into two main categories. Stellar mass black holes form when a massive star collapses at the end of its life, weighing anywhere from a few to a few dozen times the mass of our Sun. Supermassive black holes, on the other hand, reside at the centers of galaxies. Our own Milky Way galaxy hosts one called Sagittarius A, which weighs about 4 million solar masses. For a long time, this was near the upper end of what we expected to find, immense yet comprehensible. Then came TON 618. This celestial object was first catalogued in 1957 on photographic plates during a survey at Mexico's Tonantzintla Observatory. Hence its name, TON 618, the 618th entry on their list. Nobody thought much of it at the time. It looked like a faint blue star, one of thousands. It took another 15 years to realize the object had been entirely misidentified. By the early 1970s, improved spectrographs revealed that this faint blue star was not a star at all. It was a quasar. That word is short for quasi-stellar object, and it describes the active, feeding core of a very distant galaxy. The light we were seeing wasn't coming from a sun. It was emanating from a galaxy's central black hole, surrounded by a swirling disk of doomed material, so hot and so bright that it eclipsed every star in its host galaxy. While strange, quasars themselves weren't entirely new. What made TON 618 different came later, when astronomers measured its redshift. The light had been stretched so dramatically by the expansion of the universe that they could calculate how far it had traveled. The answer was a little over 10 billion light-years. This meant the light reaching us had left its source when the universe itself was less than 4 billion years old, an infant cosmos by contemporary standards. And the object producing that light was, by every measurement we could make, utterly staggering. But the true terror of TON 618 emerges when we look at the numbers. Our Sun, by human standards, is enormous. You could fit about 1.3 million Earths inside it. Compared to most stars in the galaxy, our Sun is average. Compared to the biggest stars in the Milky Way, our Sun is actually on the small side. Fine, scale is relative. Now, take our Sun and imagine 66 billion of them. Some recent revisions put the figure closer to 40 billion, which honestly doesn't change the picture. Either number places TON 618 in a category of its own. There is no common word for a black hole this heavy. Astronomers had to invent one. They call it ultramassive. Every star you have ever seen in the night sky, every constellation, the entire luminous band of the Milky Way, stretching across the summer horizon. All that mass compressed into a single point, and it still would not be enough. That object's event horizon has a radius of roughly 1,300 astronomical units, AU. 1 astronomical unit is the average distance from the Earth to the Sun, approximately 150 million kilometers. Even Pluto, the most distant major body in our solar system, orbits at roughly 40 AU. That means the event horizon of TON 618 reaches more than 30 times past Pluto in every direction. And from edge to edge through its middle, it spans roughly 2,600 AU. You could line up dozens of full solar systems across that span, Sun to Pluto to Sun to Pluto, and still have room left over. Light itself, the fastest entity in the universe, would require approximately 2 weeks to traverse it from one edge to the other. 2 weeks for a beam of light to cross a single cosmic void. If you could somehow hover near the edge of that event horizon, which you could not, because you would perish long before approaching it, you would see the universe warped into a single distorted point. Space itself would bend so severely that the stars behind you would appear in front, warped into luminous rings. Your watch would tick slower than a watch on Earth. Drift a little closer, and a minute of your time would be a century for everyone you left behind. The sky you would see from that vantage point would not look like a sky at all. It would look like a lens. Every galaxy in the observable universe would be smeared into a thin, brilliant halo above you, while below you, where the black hole waits, there would be nothing. No light, no texture, just a perfect circle of absence so complete that your brain would refuse to process it as a surface or a shape. Simply the ultimate abyss. And that's just its geometry. We haven't even begun to discuss its activity. TON 618 is far from a quiet celestial body. It's a quasar, meaning it's voraciously feeding. A constant stream of gas, dust, and even entire stars is spiraling inward, heated by friction to millions of degrees, before irrevocably vanishing across the event horizon. That superheated disk of doomed material is what shines so brightly. The accretion disk, surrounding a black hole of this magnitude, would extend for light weeks in every direction. Stars that wandered too close would not fall in as solid objects. They would be shredded by immense tidal forces long before reaching the event horizon, stretched into thin streamers of incandescent gas, spun into the disk, and then inexorably pulled under. We have seen this happen on smaller scales around smaller black holes, calling these events tidal disruptions. At TON 618's scale, entire star clusters could be devoured within a single human lifetime, and the quasar would scarcely register the meal. TON 618's luminosity is estimated at an astonishing 140 trillion times the brightness of our Sun. 140 trillion. If you took the entire Milky Way galaxy, every single one of its roughly 400 billion stars, and placed that galaxy right next to TON 618, the quasar would outshine the galaxy by a factor of several thousand. A single object brighter than thousands of galaxies combined. That is the light currently registering in our telescopes. And that is how we found TON 618 in the first place. The glow, the impossible luminosity. It is how we measured it, how we classified it, how we know it exists at all. Yet, this light is merely a symptom, the visible manifestation of something far more immense beneath. And when you perform the calculations for that underlying phenomenon, the numbers become truly impossible. This is the enigma that haunts astrophysicists. A black hole with 66 billion solar masses should not have existed only 4 billion years after the Big Bang. Black holes primarily grow through two mechanisms, accreting matter and merging with other black holes. Both processes take time. A stellar mass black hole that feeds as fast as physics allows, at a rate known as the Eddington limit, still doubles in mass only every few tens of millions of years. Perform the calculations, and it becomes clear. You cannot grow a 66 billion solar mass black hole from a single collapsed star within a few billion years. There simply wasn't enough time in the early universe to construct an object of that magnitude through conventional means. So how did TON 618 get so big, so fast? Astronomers propose three primary theories, none of which offer a comfortable explanation. The first is called the direct collapse scenario. In this version, giant clouds of primordial gas in the early universe bypassed the normal star formation process entirely, collapsing directly into black holes, each potentially weighing 100,000 solar masses. Beginning with such a massive seed provides a significant head start. From there, it could rapidly accrete matter to reach billions of solar masses within the available cosmic timeframe. The second idea is the runaway merger scenario. In the crowded cores of the earliest galaxies, massive stars collided, formed black holes, and those black holes merged with each other in rapid succession. Each merger propelled the growing monster into a higher mass category. Repeat this cycle rapidly enough, and you arrive at an object like TON 618. The third idea, which some researchers are beginning to take more seriously, is that primordial black holes, formed in the chaotic fractions of a second, immediately following the Big Bang. If they existed, they would be direct products of density fluctuations in the nascent universe, and they could have started growing before the first stars even lit up. In that version of the story, TON 618 was never an object that became a black hole. It was born one in the very first moments of the universe, and has been feeding ever since. We do not know which answer is right. We may never know. Every model currently under consideration forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The early universe was constructing objects that, by our current understanding, should have taken far longer to form. TON 618 stands as compelling evidence of this. This brings us back to the unsettling question that may still linger in your mind. Is TON 618 actually heading towards us? The answer, in two parts, is both reassuring and deeply profound. Firstly, the object itself is not. The expansion of the universe is carrying TON 618 away from us faster every year. Even as you watch this, the physical distance between Earth and that black hole is increasing. In the most literal, measurable sense, TON 618 is receding into the cosmic darkness. The second part is harder, because nobody has ever actually seen the object. Nobody ever will. What we perceive when we aim a telescope at that region of the sky is light. Incredibly ancient light. The photons reaching our telescopes tonight left TON 618 when the universe itself was less than 4 billion years old. Earth didn't exist. Our sun didn't exist. There was no rock, no ocean, no atom in your body arranged into anything recognizable. The light began its journey anyway. For 10.5 billion years, it traveled through expanding space, through galaxies and cosmic voids, aimed at a patch of emptiness where, one day, a planet teeming with curious primates would aim a telescope back. Most of these photons were lost along the way, but a tiny fraction survived, and they are arriving right now, continuing to reach us as long as humanity gazes skyward. So yes, something from TON 618 is heading toward us. It has been heading toward us for 10 billion years. At this exact moment, tonight, it is striking mirrors on mountaintops across this planet. While the object itself flees into the expanding universe, its light continues to find us, and each photon that completes this epic journey carries an unsettling message. The universe's most colossal monsters existed far earlier and grew far faster than our current theories predict, leaving a significant gap in our understanding. And there's one more thought that truly humbles us. TON 618 was not discovered because someone went hunting for a monster. It was noticed almost by accident on a photographic plate from the 1950s, and only decades later did anyone realize what it was. Which raises an obvious question. How many more of these colossal entities exist? Recent surveys have begun to uncover other ultramassive black holes. Some are nearly as large as TON 618. A few might even be bigger, though measurements at these extreme distances and scales inherently carry substantial error margins. The James Webb Space Telescope, for instance, has already identified objects it wasn't expected to find, glowing in the distance, from an era when the universe had only just begun to assemble its first significant structures. Astronomers affectionately call them little red dots. Some turn out to be active supermassive black holes, already grown to millions or billions of solar masses, in a cosmos only a few 100 million years old. The deeper we peer into the cosmos, the more these colossal anomalies emerge. And the more monsters we find, the clearer it becomes that the early universe was not the slow, patient builder we assumed it was. TON 618 is not unique. It is simply the biggest one we have confirmed so far. that record will almost certainly fall. Somewhere out in the archives of the sky, a larger one is probably already sitting on a photographic plate, waiting for the right astronomer to notice. So what do we do with something like TON 618? We cannot visit it. Even if we invented a spacecraft that could travel at the speed of light, a one-way trip would take more than 10 billion years. We cannot send a probe. We cannot study it up close. All we will ever have are its photons, arriving tired, stretched, and ancient, carrying a story we are still learning to read. But these photons are enough to shake the foundations of what we thought we knew. Every textbook model of black hole growth, every timeline of galactic evolution, every assumption about how mass accumulates in the young universe has to make room for TON 618. This object is a critical test case that our current theories consistently fail to explain. And perhaps the most humbling realization is this: if you stood outside our galaxy and looked back toward home, the Milky Way would appear enormous, hundreds of billions of stars, with arms of gas and dust spiraling across 100,000 light-years. Every civilization we know, every war, every love story, every name ever uttered, all contained within that single, faint spiral of light. TON 618, residing at the heart of its distant host galaxy, outweighs our entire Milky Way, not just the galaxy's stars, but all of them combined, compressed into a single point, and the light from that singular point is what reaches our telescopes tonight. Let's be clear, we are not in danger from TON 618. The mathematics are unambiguous. It is far too distant to exert any gravitational influence on us, and the expansion of the universe ensures we will only grow further apart. But danger isn't the only metric for fear. TON 618 is frightening because it reminds us that we do not live in a universe we fully understand. The rules we wrote down to describe how mass, gravity, and time interact work beautifully in the neighborhood around our sun. They hold up for stars like ours, and galaxies like ours, and black holes at the scales we have mapped out there at the edges of what we can see. But while these rules function admirably in our cosmic neighborhood, they begin to resemble rough drafts when applied to the universe's infancy, an era where phenomena occurred that our equations still cannot fully account for. Every night, as TON 618's ancient light traverses the final kilometers of its 10 billion-year journey and enters the mirror of a telescope on some lonely mountaintop, a message continuously arrives, a message from a time before Earth, before the sun, before anything you have ever called home. The message is stark and profound. You do not know how immense things can become. You do not know how rapidly they can grow. You do not know how much of the universe remains hidden from your gaze. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the sender is still out there, still feeding, still growing, still sending. We are looking at a ghost that hasn't finished writing its story. The next telescope image of TON 618 will capture light that is infinitesimally newer than what we have now, only by a few seconds, but crucially, it will be closer to the present moment. Every moment we study it, we pull a thread, and the thread keeps getting longer. Whatever awaits at the other end, in the true present of the universe, is something no human will ever witness. But it is there. It is still there. And in the deepest sense of the word, it is the scariest object humanity has ever found.